Hello, everyone. My name is Shivan Gandhi. I'm here with my colleague Ajay Pawar, and we are the co founders of MedTech Hustlers. MedTech Hustler is an online non-profit forum which is catering with educational videos through fireside chat. Our vision is to invite leading industry speakers to talk on various topics ranging from the business side to the technical side. We are embarking on this journey today with our very first topic on medical device industry at a glance. And it gives me immense pleasure to invite our first speaker, Sonal Matai. Sonal is currently a managing director at Karl Storz Endoscopy America, based out of Southern California, where he's in charge of managing corporate strategy, business growth, and in charge of the overall growth and market share for Karl Storz. Over the past 2 decades, Sonal has worked in companies like GE and Philips, as well as startup. And throughout this, he's worked in different parts of the US, Netherlands, Switzerland, Thailand, and India. Sonal holds a master's in MBA from the International Institute of Management in Lausanne, Switzerland, and he holds a master's of arts in economics from University of Pune in India. With this, welcome Sonal.
Thank you so much, Shivan and Ajay, to have me for the first episode at MedTech Hustlers. Really looking forward to the dialogue.
Fantastic. With that, Ajay, if I can ask you to open the fireside chat with your question.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you so much. So let me start with asking our very first question, and that is the overview of the medical device landscape. So Sonal, what are your thoughts on value-based healthcare, and how does medical devices interact with that concept? We hear this phrase value-based healthcare quite often. So could you please explain in simple language to our audience what it means and perhaps with an example?
Yeah. To put it simply, right, value-based healthcare to me, and I think overall, means that as we go forward, rather than paying for an intervention or a fee-for-service model, as it's called, you pay for the outcome, right? So rather than say, I give you something and I'll pay, you need to pay me for that. I give you a glass of water. Rather than paying for a glass of water, you're paying for really quenching the thirst and the outcome that it brings and your happiness that brings. So that's value-based healthcare in very simple words for me, right? And that's across the whole value chain of healthcare. If I look at whether it's the providers, the hospital chains, payers, the suppliers like all of us in the med device industry, etc., needing to move there. Ajay, what does it mean for us in med devices is again the same, right? How do we drive our innovation to support outcomes, right? What do we do in everything, right? In our innovation, in our care delivery models, etc., to support a better patient outcome, not just that it is used. So let's look at what we do at Karl Storz a little bit, or anybody in minimally invasive surgery. If we are in the operating rooms, using our endoscopes or using our integration solutions, is to how does it get better outcomes? Can we help the physician or the surgeon be better prepared? Can we put imaging to be better prepared, etc., so that the outcome is better? It's not for the usage of the device per se, but the eventual outcome. So I think every med device company, I think, has the onus on themselves to truly work on this, because this is our future, right? I think that is our future, to move into a more outcome-driven business so that we can change and improve patients' lives. That's why we are all in business.
Those are great points, Sonal. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on value-based healthcare. So maybe taking it a little bit further and just talking about the med device industry. How big is the med device industry, and how does the growth look like when compared to other industries like automotive industry or any other tech industry? And lastly, what do you think about med device? Is that an attractive industry?
Thanks, Ajay. A lot of questions there. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm sure there are other market research and experts around this. But to give you my overview, I think the med device industry globally would be between 450 to 500 billion dollars. Right now, I think it would be 450 to 500 billion dollars, and it does grow between 5 to 7%. Uh, I think various studies have shown that, and this is everything that is in the device space. I don't know the size of the automotive or the tech industry in total. They must be trillions of dollars, but I look at this as probably the most attractive industry to be in, if you ask me, because it is at the cusp of solving a large problem in the world. Is how do we deliver care in a more efficient manner to and the entire population of the world, right? And how do we use technology? So solving for care and using technology to solve for that, I don't think anybody is can be in a better industry than this. And you call it med devices, or you could call it life sciences, you could call it healthcare. It's now a technology business, right? Because you need to use technology to solve for those problems. Is Amazon not a healthcare company or a med device or a med tech company today? I think they will also become one. Same with Google or others, not to preach there. But that is, I think, how do we solve for this challenge? And I think the device industry is at the forefront of this. And I am very, very excited about the future of this industry, and I think it's a very, very attractive industry. That was also one of the reasons this
Yeah,
industry from the
can't
consumer
agree with
lens.
that more. Absolutely. Yeah, combining the healthcare and the technology is amazing.
Yeah. But thank you, Sonal, for giving us an overview of the medical device industry. My next question for you is, in your mind, what are some of the trending advancement in medical device or therapies which are going to have a huge potential in the future?
Shivan, thanks for that. Again, there are many areas where the med device industry is going that'll have a huge, huge, huge difference. I'll give you a few, right, that come to my mind. First and foremost, I think how care to get better access to care, right? That's what we are looking at, to get better access to care at a lower cost with better outcomes. I think home will become, or any other alternate site to the hospital, will become a very big area of focus. So, how do we get into these new care sites and deliver better care with our devices? How do they get miniaturized? How do they get better connectivity with the cloud? How do their usage actually improve that a patient can probably self-use them, so that we move patients away from the hospital into this care environment where it's also better for them, for their own lifestyle reasons, for better outcomes, etc., that they would like that care to be given at their home or in a different care setting. So I think that shift of care settings and what can medical devices do to solve for that, that'll be a big one, I think, over the next many years to come. I think telehealth, uh, and if you were to ask me 3 years ago, pre-COVID, around telehealth and its adoption, I would have said it might be 1 to 3%. I think now 30%. There must be 30% of patients that, in some shape or form, or consumers in some shape or form, might have used virtual or telehealth to engage with their clinical staff, right? Whether in India, whether in the US, whether in China, or in Europe. So I think that is huge, right? That shift of how care can be delivered, again, not in a face-to-face, but a telehealth or a virtual setting. So I think that trend will also continue. I also think, again, I am a little biased with the industry that I'm in surgery. I think robotics will again be a huge shift of how we use robotics, specifically in surgery, across that whole surgical chain, or different types of surgery, not just general surgery, but others as well. Um, I think would be very, very interesting. I think robotics would be another field that I would say would define how us in devices would work. I also think digital therapeutics as a fourth area, where you're trying to bring in both a software and a device together to solve for a challenge. right? How do you use a model where a behavioral aspect, as well as trying to use a device to dispense a drug and then create some kind of models, I think will change, right? Of how do we treat some of these chronic illnesses, etc. I think could be very interesting. So I would say these three or four big areas of, as I said, the shift of care sites, telehealth, robotics, digital therapeutics will define, I think, the next 8 to 10 years.
No, that's a good insight on what lies ahead of us in the medical device space. Talking about future, let's dive into data science. I hear this concept of artificial intelligence and machine learning a lot. So I'm curious to hear your take on what do you think about machine learning and artificial intelligence in medical devices, and what does the future hold for us?
Shiveen, I think if you were to ask me the biggest buzzword that I've heard over the last, uh, not only buzzword, the biggest change driver of our industry, if you were to think of it in med devices over the last few years and now as we go forward, will be artificial intelligence and machine learning, right? As we can make our devices better connected so that we can create more data from the patient, uh, will mean that we can now analyze that data even more so, right? It's very simple. As our devices get better connectivity, they are, whether you're using wearable devices or any other within a hospital setting, any kind of device, right? It's creating data. And now we're trying to use that data to say, can we drive efficiency with it? Right? Whether you look at radiology and how we can drive efficiency in radiology uh, to remove some redundant tasks, or same with in minimally invasive surgery. If I can look at the number of times an instrument is being used, and if some instruments are not being used, to get away with them so that you make their instrument tray more efficient for the surgeon or the surgical nurse, etc. to use. I think how can I use? I think you can use AI in my mind again. I look at it. I think AI and machine learning. You can look at the entire value chain and solve for, right? And you can use it everywhere. And I think you can use it to make better efficiency in supply chain, right? Which our medical device industry over the last 2 to 3 years during COVID has struggled with. How do we? I think we can use that a lot, right? I look at how do we do our clinical trials and everything else. I think we can use again artificial intelligence, etc., to improve that. I look at you can make efficiency in terms of the workflows that we use in our clinical settings. Any workflow in any clinical setting, whether you're in a OR, whether you are in a radiology site, whether you are in a GP practice, can we improve that? I think you can also use analytics and this to expedite care. How do you use that to make it even better? Right? Can I do preventive care using this? Which is, I think, the biggest holy grail of healthcare of anybody is how do I make the care model become more focused on preventative care than sick care? Right? Our whole healthcare model is inverted and focusing on sick care rather than focusing on preventative care. Right? From a cost perspective, so I think we can use AI to start saying, okay, if you're a healthy person, can I use AI to predict, trigger, get you to move into a more, if there is a trigger that you might get sick, how do I make you, trigger that you don't get into that? So I think there is a lot. I also think, as I said, you can use AI and ML to make some of the non-clinical situations also better, right? Or drive productivity in every aspect of how we are using our software. How many times does the software need to come on, right? In any setting, again, within our companies, our manufacturers, or at the clinical sites. So I think AI and ML is our future in many ways. We need to use it in every aspect of the value chain and then uh, keep improving, right? That's what the machine learning is. We keep improving and continuous improvement there. So I'm very bullish again on that, and I think as an individual, I'm trying to learn a lot about it as well. So I'm very bullish.
No, but it's definitely inspiring and promising to hear like what the future holds for us. That these concept of artificial intelligence and machine learning. At least my sense of hearing you out is companies will have to get on that bandwagon either now or in the future because that's going to be the future.
Well
But
said.
yeah,
Well said,
personally, I am excited what the future holds for us. So thank you for sharing that. You mentioned COVID, and I know this question must have come across so many times for a leader like you, but I think it's still relevant. We are at the tail end of COVID. What are some of the things you feel have changed in the medical device industry because of COVID? And of those, which of those things are here to stay permanently? So that's my first question. And the second question is how has the interaction with the customer changed due to COVID?
Yeah, I think COVID completely flipped the whole industry, Shivain, and I hope we're at the tail end of COVID, firstly.
Yeah.
And again, it was unprecedented. I don't know whether there is so much written about it over the last 3 years. Just sound preachy out there. It's the new normal, the normal, whatever it is. But I'll tell you, it changed the way the industry has worked, right? In terms of how we've looked at innovation, how we've got our teams together, what I spoke about earlier on telehealth, right? Or looking at different sites of care because you could not come into the hospital setting. I think those things got fast tracked. Things that we could not do because we felt that it will take us 8 or 10 years. Now you can engage and get teams to work together very quickly.
Yeah.
Right. I think the usage of technology in our collaboration settings, I think has been completely different. You asked the question around how is it meant that we've started engaging with customers, and then I'll answer some of the other pieces as well, or give some other insights as well. Right, we needed to move from a face-to-face selling model to a completely virtual selling model, right? So, and I think every company of the world did very well because we all adapted to it, right? Even this conversation, a fireside chat, would have been truly a fireside chat 3 years ago, and now we're doing it over Zoom. So I think that has changed as well. I look at and think about every aspect of the value chain. Again, I go back to that. I think all of us in med devices or the industry have started looking at and said, how do we bring technology there? How do we go deeper there to make it more resilient as well as more future proof, right? If we were to have something like this again. So I think that has to stick, right? I think this whole piece of learning this new muscle that we will need to use technology in every facet of what we do, how we engage with our customers, how we do our bookings, how we do our financial processes, what we do in HR, right? How we engage with our customer. Everything will need to be more technology driven, right? And our teams will need to adopt to that technology, and our customers are adopting to that. Our suppliers on the back end that supply to us components, etc., they need to adapt and adopt that. So I think that to me has been the biggest gift of COVID.
Yeah.
In a way. It has been a big gift that it helped us move things much faster. Even if I look at the approval processes at the FDA, etc., they need to be truncated and figure out. The FDA started figuring out ways to how do you do approvals during this period. So I think every aspect of the value chain of healthcare has learned something. And I hope we don't go back to a world where we don't use technology in other areas.
Yeah, exactly. I think the adaptation is the key word here, right? The entire industry adapted it pretty quickly during the COVID. And that tells us that, right? I mean, if something new going to happen in the future, adaptation is going to stay, right? I mean, the industry can adapt to those changes.
Very much, Ajay.
Yeah. So with that, Sonal, my last question to you is, what do you think we will see in the next decade in the medical device industry? Any predictions or pointers? And including, I mean, we know that inflation is also coming, right? And it's also actually happening right now pretty well. So what impact do you see of that?
We start with the first, the going backwards, right? Answer your last part of your question. I think inflation is real. It's here, and we're all trying to deal with it. Everybody in my circle, my peer groups at every large end company or mid-sized med device company. We're trying to deal with it. We've seen a lot of price increases from our suppliers. And I think we are all having discussions to say, okay, how do we manage it internally? And also discussing with our customers on how we can actually balance ourselves, right? So I think everybody is going through that dialogue right now. And yeah, it's a challenge, but as you rightly pointed out, it's adaptation, and we'll all need to work through this and also be one team around this, right? I say the whole value chain that serves the patient and serves this end consumer needs to think, okay, how do we, work on this together and make us all win? It should not be one party winning, etc. So I think that's a very key area of focus for me as well. Now, going to your predictions on the med device industry, as I said in the first piece, right? I think it is the most phenomenal industry to be in. Right? I think when you can change a patient's life, that purpose that we all have, when you see some of the work that every company has done, right, in so many different areas of how they've changed patients' lives and solved for some of the most difficult medical problems of the world, I think it just is remarkable. I hope that innovation continues. Right? There is one hope that I have, that innovation continues, and it continues at a faster speed than ever before. That we can solve for bigger challenges, we can make patient care more efficient, with lower cost, with better access. Right? So I think innovation in that area. I also think cooperation and competition along industry partners and manufacturers. I would hope for that as well. That how can we partner and truly solve for problems than just be in I'm X company and Y company and I. In some areas, I think we need to work together. Two engineering brains are better than one, right? So I think that will be another area. I would also say to med devices to truly look at areas of what we started in the value-based care question right at the beginning. There is some area that I think we can focus upon. I think we've all looked at more capital sales, but is there different models of how we can look at ourselves from our business model and innovate there? That would be another piece that I would say at least over the next 5 to 7 years, maybe not 10 years, that we need to start thinking, and probably will last 10 years as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are very valuable points. So Sonal, thank you so much for your time and sharing your very insightful key points. We want to thank you for your time and engagement with us. For the audience, if you find the content useful, please click on the like button, share, and hit subscribe to stay tuned for future talks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.